Welcome, everyone. All you folks out there in cyberspace. Welcome, everyone, to the 2020 annual meeting of the Barnstable Land Trust. My name is Joe Hawley, and I'm president of Barnstable Land Trust. Thank you for joining us virtually and for your patience as we navigate this new technology. It certainly is very different. Before we begin, here are a few housekeeping items that are showing on the screen. Meeting's being recorded. Participants are muted except for our speakers. Please use the chat function to ask questions or leave comments. Please close out all the polls after you have checked the results. We suggest you use speaker view versus, let's see, what is that? I can't see it. Anyways, speaker view.
Versus gallery view.
Gallery, thank you. Valerie, I got it, it's right here. That'll give you the best view of the slides and the current speaker. All right, so we're gonna start with a poll. Normally we'd like to start the meeting by identifying who's here, any celebrities, governmental officials, etc. But since we can't do that in person, we want you to take the poll. So just click on the box that signifies who you might be. There we go. Very exciting. Come on, fundraiser. Okay. 23. Need 20, couple more votes here. I better vote, huh? Let's see. Yep. Couple more? Couple more? Okay. Excellent. All right. So you can see who the audience is. Let's move on. All right. Now, at this time, I want to thank our sponsors for this year's annual meeting. A big shout out to Rockland Trust for their flexibility and generous support during this unusual time, and a big thank you as well to Cape Cod 5. We're also grateful to Bridge Creek Capital Management, DPola Begg & Associates, Boston Financial, and Lawrence Lynch Corporation. During this difficult time, we acknowledge the impact of the COVID pandemic, which has affected your land trust in some real ways, but has also shown the importance of open spaces to our community. Based on several comments that we've received from folks who have visited our properties over the past few months, we all should feel very good about BLT's role in contributing to the physical and mental health of our community during this very difficult time. So on that note, I'd like to take another quick poll to see where your favorite outdoor escapes have been in the last 3 to 4 months. So let's see the poll right here. All right, there we go. You can see what folks are doing, what they enjoy. Yeah, you didn't put a golf course on there. Pretty good. Very evenly balanced. Well done. Mark Smiley says our polls are great. Okay. So we'll shut it off there. We have 28 responses. Very good. Very interesting. Even Stevens, so to speak. Now, moving on to some other, opening comments here. 3 years ago, we held a board retreat and decided to become more proactive in protecting sensitive land throughout the town of Barnstable. And we made some significant moves. The first thing we did was we hired Janet Milkman, our executive director, who's doing a fantastic job for us. We also hired a full-time land stewardship coordinator, who now happens to be Kelly Barber. We improved our signage on all our properties. And very importantly, we mapped and prioritized all the critical conservation properties remaining in the town. That was something we had talked about for, golly, I don't know, 10, 15 years. We also created several small cultivation and fundraising events, including trolley tours, dinners, and we even held a very successful partnership event with Cape Cod Symphony last fall. But this period was highlighted by the purchase and renovation of the office you see here, our office at 1540 Route 6A in West Barnstable. And we couldn't have done that without the generous support of many of our members. And it's the office building, it really looks great now, and hopefully we're going to have an open house at some point in the near future. So continuing on with the board retreat thought, in March of this year, we held another board retreat and resolved to work on improving our brand and visibility in order to better serve our entire community. And importantly, increase our membership base, which I'll talk about later on, and leverage the use of our new office by expanding our educational offerings. We are also developing a community impact statement, which will outline how BLT benefits our community and identifies what the community needs from us. Our goal is to work towards safe and equitable access to conservation for all in our community. We are extremely grateful for those of you who have assisted Barnstable Land Trust with your time, your talent, and your financial support before and during this crisis. So the first order of business as we move into the business part of the meeting is we're going to hear from Deb Ruman, who is going to give us the treasurer's report. Deb?
Thanks, Joe. So this is my first time coming to you as in this role as being the treasurer, and I took over from Rob Carey last November. So the first thing I thought you may be interested in, since members are the primary financial source for our operations, I wanted to let you know how we're doing in terms of our membership. So you can see that in 2019, we had 54 new members, and that brought our total membership up to 648, which was showing that we're kind of staying even with the members who are no longer involved with the land trust. But those members gave a total of 762 donations and gifts, and so the total financial support from those 648 members was substantial for the year. An update through July 7th, just so that you know how we're doing so far this year, is that we have 51 new members, and so far 299 members have renewed. And we've received a total of 377 gifts year to date. So just to put a little context around that, there are 45,000 year-round residents in Barnstable, and that number goes up to 120,000 summer residents. So what we'd really like to do is to engage more members, and we're asking for your support in engaging with your friends, your neighbors, your relatives. We've seen a tremendous increase in the usage of our properties this year, and we sincerely hope that that will inspire more people to become members and stay involved in the organization that they've come to value. So now just moving on to the next slide to show how Barnstable Land Source resources have been used to accomplish our mission. By the end of 2019, we had conservation restrictions on 368 acres, which represents parcels, and we own 743 acres, representing 154 parcels outright, for a total of 1,111 acres on 205 parcels of land. And Janet will discuss in detail more recent projects that we are involved in trying to add to these totals. In 2019, we added an additional 10 acres, 10.36 acres, through conservation restrictions and purchases on 3 parcels of land. And I just want to emphasize that most projects take at least 2 years to go through our pipeline, but some actually take substantially longer than that. And in terms of our resources, on the next slide, you can see that we are well positioned financially. We have cash balances at the end of 2019 of over $141,000, almost $142,000, and an investment balances of $2,378,000. Those investment balances include unrestricted funds primarily, but also board designated funds, which have been designated for specific purposes. We have also included in there donor restricted funds for various purposes, and endowed funds of about $260,000. So we're in good shape to weather the downturn and uncertainty that we're facing today, as well as having the resources to address, probably more importantly, the strategic plan that we are about to embark on. I wanted just to add to this, that cash from operations last year provided an additional $143,000. So we were positive on operations on a cash basis. And some of that money was then expended for purchase of land and purchase and improvements of the office, which accounts for the increase in cash amounts of $30,000. Moving on to our operating results, our statement of activities. You can now see that how important our membership is to providing the resources that we need to accomplish our mission. The vast majority, $325,000 was from contributions and grants, another $60,000 for memberships, and special events provided about $57,000. And then programs and merchandise, another $4,200, $4,300, for a total of $446,000. And then investment income was received without donor restrictions of another $41,504, for a total of $487,426. And how this money was expended on the next slide is, well, I'm going to just start. Oh, here we go. So we have expended this by function is on land acquisition, $117,000, on land stewardship, $91,000, outreach to develop and engage members, we had $100,000, and fundraising, we spent approximately $90,000, and $89,000 was expended on administration. So we were pleased to be able to reach just about break even on operations for 219, which is no small task. In part, that was due to the hard work of Janet and her staff to control expenditures, as well as the volunteer efforts that helped us to run lean on staffing, and the generosity of our donors, large and small. And so just as context for further information about how we're doing this year, the impact of COVID-19 on our operating budget, it's been fairly limited. We have received, applied for and received the Small Business Administration loan for payroll protection program of over $37,000, which is a forgivable loan. And it's nearly made up for the losses that we are expecting because we had to cancel our dinners and limit the Tour de Barnstable to a virtual event. So since Barnstable Land Trust has limited our reliance on large events, we've been able to sort of hold the line on how much we had at stake in the event realm, and our membership and other donors seem to be holding fairly steady. And our new member outreach has, as you've seen, had good results, you know, as well as kind of keeping our staffing very lean and keeping our other expenses down to a minimum. So I'm going to turn this back to Joe, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Deb. I'd now like to present to the members for a vote via polling the following. We're going to do the BLT officers for the coming year, and then existing and a new board member for a vote, and then we'll finish up with the 2021 nominating committee. So just so you know, these slates were recommended by the nominating committee to the board for their approval and further recommendation to the BLT members. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll start with the officer slate. President Joseph Hawley, Vice President Karen Daly, Treasurer Deb Ruman, and Clerk Patty Berkey. So we could please pull up the poll so that you can indicate your yes or no vote on this slate. Looking good so far. Look at that. All right. Take another minute here. Anybody who hasn't voted, please vote. Yay or nay. Okay. I think we have an official vote. So we had 30 yays, and there were some abstentions or non-voters out there. So thank you. Let's move on to the next group, which is the board group. And the bios for the board members that are involved in this election, including the officers, were included in the program. So I'm not going to go through and give you individual bios, but I do want to point out the first name here, Robert Callahan, is a new potential board member, and we're very excited about Bob's addition to the board group. I think he's got a lot of tremendous experience, and please take the time to read his bio. It's fascinating. And we have Justine Laharn going for a new 3-year term, and Lee Towns also for a new 3-year term, and to be elected to a 1-year term expiring next year as Wendy Barker and Joseph Hawley. So we'll use the polling device again to indicate, please, your yes or no vote on this slate of directors. It's the kind of popularity poll I like. All right. Excellent. All right, so that slate is voted with, let's see, 30 votes positive. No nays, so to speak. All right, so let's move on. So the directors continuing to serve with unexpired terms are Patty Berkey, Rob Carey, Karen Daly, Karen Hanesian, Beth Odance, Terry Riley, and Deb Roman. This is a great group of directors for sure. And thank you for your continuing service. And I think we've got the nominating committee for next year. And this is a one-year term. We do this every year. Chair Joe Hawley, Carol Carter, Karen Daly, Karen Hanesian, Leanne Hess, and James O'Connor. So again, we'll use the polling device to indicate your yes or no vote for this slate for the nominating committee, please. Excellent. Indicating nobody wants to volunteer for the nominating committee, so they want to keep that group intact. All right. That's great. We've got 29 yes votes, 0 nays. So we'll well, we got 30 now. Thank you. Excellent. Now, we're going to move on to my next thing to talk about, which is a little sad news. So at this time, I'd like to acknowledge the retirement from the board of Polly Dana Schumacher. I'm going to say a few words here. Polly has faithfully served on the board of BLT since 2009. So that qualifies her as a veteran. During this time, she did serve for several years as, clerk, and was directly involved in our fundraising events and was instrumental in organizing our former major fundraiser, Gifts from the Sea. Polly leads a volunteer group that supports our day-to-day office operation. And let me tell you that Polly is a solid person who always speaks her mind, provides excellent support and guidance as a member of the BLT board. I consider her the perfect board member. She's well-spoken, tireless, loyal, and present at all times and all events. Polly, you are a terrific person and you will be missed. So please join me in a virtual round of applause for Polly Dana Schumacher. Wow, the fans are going crazy. I don't know how they got through that system. All right. Anyways, moving on. Thank you, Polly. What is next here? So I am now going to turn the microphone over to Karen Hanesian for a bylaws update. Karen?
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Hanesian. I am a board member and a member of the Land Protection Committee. I'm also an attorney, so I've been tasked with the job of drafting an extremely simple amendment to our articles of organization and bylaws, along with Karen Daly, who is also a board member. So our bylaws specifically state that members must have 10 days notice of these amendments. So to make sure that adequate notice is given to all members, today will be the official formal notice to our members. And then we will have a special 1-hour virtual telephone meeting that will take place on July 28th. So a notice will be posted on our website. Assuming that the amendments are approved by a 2/3 vote of the members present at these meetings, your votes today will be ratified and the amendments will be adopted. So what are the proposed amendments? Basically, they're going to allow us to work on projects outside the town of Barnstable. And as Janet will tell you, we have plenty to do here in the town of Barnstable. So we're not looking for conservation projects and opportunities outside of our boundaries. However, sometimes they come looking for us. And there are land trusts on Cape Cod that partner from time to time to hold a conservation restriction or support a land purchase. And this change would allow us to do it formally. So again, we need in this field of work flexibility, creativity, and it's helpful if our legal infrastructure supports that. So a couple of recent examples and why we need this change are the Wakeby Road property that extends into Sandwich. Be helpful if we could support the town of Sandwich and Sandwich Conservation in protecting these parcels if they need it. The same owner that we're working with on the Wakeby Road project has a parcel in Mashpee. So she would like BLT's help with preserving this land. And because she already has a relationship with BLT, we could work with Mashpee, their native land conservancy, so there is no Mashpee Land Trust, to do that. So you should all have a copy of the proposed amendments. And if you do not, I think they're available. They've been made available to everybody who has registered for this. So really simple changes coming up. One is to the bylaws, which were amended in their entirety in July of 2018. So under Article 3 purposes, Section A, we are adding where it says assist in, this is again our purpose, assist in and promote the preservation of the rural character of the town of Barnstable. We're adding and nearby areas, so that again, we have the legal infrastructure to be able to work outside our borders. And in Section C of that same Article 3, we would be adding to preserve and maintain areas within the town of Barnstable and nearby areas for conservation, etc. So very simple change, 3 words. And then we also have the proposed changes to the Articles of Organization. And again, in the Articles of Organization at the Secretary of State's office, we set forth our purposes of the corporation in paragraph 2A. And we are adding the language to preserve land in its natural state within the town of Barnstable, the language to be added, and nearby areas, including water resources, woodlands. So again, 3 simple words that will make a difference for Barnstable Land Trust and allow us to partner with other land trusts. So I hope that you will all vote in favor. Thank you. So we have a poll coming up, I guess. So here's the poll. Okay. So far, 100%. So 80% have voted. We're getting there.
Panelists can't vote, Karen, so if you get
Okay.
up close to
So
30.
So I think we're set.
think we're finished?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, so it's over and it looks like a resounding number of you agree that this is good language to add. Thank you.
John, I know John Miller's raising his hand, but Jack, if you could type something in the chat line, we can pick up your question. Got another raised hand. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So let's, I'm sorry, John, you need to type your question in the chat line for us. So let's keep moving. And we're going to now hear from Janet, who's going to give an update on all the things that have been going on this past year. Go ahead, Janet. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start with land stewardship and then update you on what's going on in the land field. And before I do that, I'm just going to answer John Miller's question, which was that poll was just to get a sense of the change to be actually voted on July 28th. And I think what Karen said was what's going to happen on July 28th is a ratification of the vote that happened today. So plenty of time for and we will invite all of our members to join that meeting. He's asking by whom. So we'll send out the information and invite any member who's interested to join us on a Zoom call on the 28th. Yeah. Okay. So really fun report that I have to do on stewardship and land conservation. You heard from Deb how we have been managing with a staff of 3.5 or 3.6. The way we do it is with our volunteers, and Will and now Kelly have done an amazing job of recruiting new volunteers, and our current volunteers have done an amazing job of bringing their friends on board. So we've added about 15 new land stewards to our group. Now we have a total of somewhere between 35 and 40. And if you just go, yeah, thanks, Lily. Some of the things they accomplished this past year were to completely replace the split rail fence around Ropes Field in Katuitt and install a new sign. So the property is recognizable as a BLT property and as Ropes Field. This was a really big project that required the help of the AmeriCorps as well, who've also been really great partners, and has been helpful in building the new member numbers that Deb talked about, because we did a little fundraising in the neighborhood around this project and brought in quite a few new people. So these projects are important not only for helping to maintain and beautify our properties, but also to engage more members and volunteers. The next big project that we did was to build a boardwalk and viewing platform behind our office. And so now if you were to come at this time of year and be really, really quiet, you could see dozens of roosting herons and egrets back there. They're incredibly beautiful and you would keep your feet dry. So really awesome project. And we've had a lot of visitors, especially as people have been really anxious to get out of their homes and outside. So far so good with that project. And then last but not least, we put a new split rail fence in on Mill Pond Overlook on 28. Continuing to improve on this property with the help of our friends at Joyce Landscaping and some folks, again, on our volunteer corps. And I just want to add that this year we've had an especially fruitful relationship with AmeriCorps, even though they had to cut out early because of the virus and send the members home. Until then, Kelly had become a sort of trainer for them, and they did a huge amount of work with us. And as a result of all that, Kelly was selected as the Partner of the Year by Cape Cod AmeriCorps, which made us very proud and grateful and hopeful about our future relationship with them. So moving on, we also have had some pretty good success with the Little Parker Pond project, which is an ecological restoration, tidal restoration of a pond at Barnstable Meadow on East Bay Road in Osterville. Last summer, it was looking pretty much like the slide on top, the photo on top. And I was actually just there this week, and it's looking so much better. The dredging has been complete. The replanting of the edge of the pond has been done, although it's not completely grown in, and there's more water in there. So the only thing that's remaining is the replacement of the culvert, which will be done later this fall or winter. And then we will have our healthy and beautiful pond back in the next couple of years. So really happy to see that happen. And there's also been a lot of work done actually on the Barnstable Meadow property too as a result of this. So take a walk by there and check it out and be amazed at what's happening. And then we haven't been able to do programming for obvious reasons, but we're ready when we are going to be able to do that again. This is our conference room, our new and improved conference room with new windows and a new heating system and new furniture. So we're all set, we're ready. Just have to do a little work on the outside of the building and we'll be done. Hope to be finished with that this summer. And then when the virus allows, we'll be able to do the programming that we are really excited about and that Joe talked briefly about related to our direction from our new strategic plan. So moving on to land conservation projects, we have two really fun projects underway. The first is this 16-acre parcel on Falcon Road. And just to orient you, the two lines at the bottom of your screen are Route 6, and the railroad tracks are at the top. So this is in West Barnstable off Plum Street. It's a lovely wooded lot with trails, and it will allow us to extend the conservation area all in green there that you see. Mostly town land, some BLT land, but 140 acres in total. And allow us to extend the wildlife corridor there and the protection of this property, which could have been developed. So we're really grateful to Mark Wertinen and Terry Riley for being so conservation minded. It's a project we're working on with the town. The town will own it, and Barnstable Land Trust will hold the CR. And a really special element of this project is this trail, which is the southern border of the project. And this trail is one of the few remaining unpaved sections of the indigenous path that used to run all the way across Cape Cod, the north side anyway, and then was used by colonists and now is part of the Cape Cod Pathways system. So because of that history, we had some support from the Native Land Conservancy, and we're really looking forward to doing some education around the indigenous history and culture on this trail, and really, really grateful to be able to protect this important part of pathways. The next project is Wakeby Road, which was mentioned by Karen. So if you look at the parcel outlined in pink is the Barnstable part of the project that we are again working on with the town. It's just about 16 acres, and the purple pieces are the Sandwich pieces, which the town of Sandwich will be working on as well. Again, this is an extension of a really major conservation area, Santuit Pond Preserve, which is partly in Mashpee, partly in Barnstable, 240 plus acres of conservation land and trails, which will be extended all the way up through Sandwich when this is all said and done. One of the interesting things about this project is that it is, actually, I just lost my train of thought there. But anyway, you can see it's a beautiful wooded lot right now. It is, could be a 11 lot subdivision were we not to conserve it and were the owner not to be conservation minded. But again, it's got beautiful trails in there that will be open to the public. What I meant to say was that this is our first project with the town applying for a Massachusetts land grant, which is the biggest pot of money that the state has for this kind of conservation project. So we're really thrilled to be working with the town on this, and really excited about finishing this project in early 2021. Falcon Road project should be done before the end of the year. And then finally, last but not least, we're so thrilled to have been donated 2 acres of land by Phyllis Cole on Bay Street in Osterville. This is a donation with the reserved life estate. So Phyllis will be able to enjoy it and care for it as long as she wishes. But it will not be developed. And it's a pretty rare thing to have a 2 acre wooded developable lot like this in Osterville with a conservation minded owner. So we're really grateful to Phyllis and delighted to have this project in an area that doesn't have a huge amount of open spaces like these. And we're looking forward to working with Phyllis to keep it a beautiful sanctuary the way she has been doing for many years. So I think the other thing that I wanted to talk about very briefly is just looking forward. We are, I'll look at my notes here. We have a nice pipeline of land projects, which we'll tell you about at the appropriate time. And we're also looking to figure out how we can support the town's effort around climate resilience, around drinking water protection and production, and the wastewater issues that we're facing. And then, as you'll hear more about from Mark Smiley shortly, looking to see how we can provide programming and engagement that really serves a broader section of our community based on what they need. So thinking about things like health and wellness, connecting with partners there, youth programming, farming and gardening. And it's really exciting to be at the beginning of this new direction of our organization. And so, as always, if you know of a property that would be appropriate for conservation, please give me a call. If you are interested in discussing conservation of your own land, please give me a call. It's really helpful to get input from everybody on the most important lands for protection. And I think I'll stop there and turn it back over to Joe.
Okay. Good job, Janet. Thank you. So now it's award time. And first we're going to announce the Founders Award presentation. And it's going to go this year to Nina Coleman. Coleman's passion, leadership, and commitment to conservation efforts have earned her this year's BLT Founders Award. Nina was hired as the park manager for Sandy Neck in 2003, where she directs ecological restoration and wetland mapping, works on ambitious coastal resiliency projects to improve the viability of the Sandy Neck infrastructure. She also directs the protection of endangered species on Sandy Neck, including piping plovers, terns, diamondback terrapins, through measures that include mandatory monitoring, predator prevention measures, nesting data, and required reporting. In her words, Nina is inspired to create a place on Cape Cod that is held in time before all these invasive plants took over and changed our ecology. Through a combination of public relations guided hikes, junior ranger program, the Turpin Head Start program to local schools, Nina works to educate the public on the importance of preserving special places like Sandy Neck. Her hope is to have these students always remember this meaningful experience and be forever mindful about protecting the Great Marsh. Now the Natural Resources Director for the town of Barnstable, Nina oversees shellfish, natural resources, animal control programs for Barnstable. Nina lives in Marston's Mills with her husband, Chris, and their two children, Ruby and Finbar. Barnstable Land Trust is thrilled to honor Nina for her inspired commitment to the natural resources of Barnstable. Congratulations, Nina. Where's my sound effect? There we go. That's all of you clapping. Yes. Notice I stepped it up. Okay. Anything for a laugh, you know. Okay, the next award is the President's Award presentation going to this year to Phyllis Miller. I'm very pleased to award Phyllis Miller of Katuitt with BLT's President's Award for her exceptional commitment, energy, and leadership in support of Barnstable Land Trust's work and mission. Phyllis has been stewarding Barnstable's precious open spaces for more than 2 decades. She was one of the original Eagle Pond stewards. That's a tough job. Helping care for the 152-acre Barnstable Land Trust property in Katuitt. She's been a member of the Town Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee for over a decade, and she's a leader in management of the Santuit Pond Reserve. We're so lucky to have volunteers like Phyllis at BLT. She cares very much about our community and is always ready to lend a hand with energy and positive support. Congratulations, Philip. There we go. All right, settle down, everybody. Okay. So normally we would offer the opportunity for the award recipients to say a few words. Obviously, this is a kind of a clunky format, and we're not able to do that. We apologize to them. But we encourage you to congratulate Nina and Phyllis in person or virtually as the opportunity arises. Regardless, we look forward to presenting Nina and Phyllis with their awards in person, albeit socially distanced, in the coming days or weeks. And we also want to give a big thank you to John Miller for his in-kind framing of the awards. Believe me, they're very nice. All right. Now, yeah, we're running a little long, but we started a little late too, so not to worry. So next up is Mark Smiley. And Mark Smiley is the principal of Solid Ground Consulting, which is a Portland, Oregon-based organizational strategy and leadership consulting firm. He has more than 20 years experience as a consultant to nonprofit organizations nationwide. His consulting experience has taken him to nearly every state in the U.S., working in the areas of board governance, strategic planning, board staff relations, organizational structure, fundraising, and planning and training. He's worked extensively with groups focused on conservation, historic preservation, energy, sustainability, affordable housing, health, and human service. He's a busy guy. He's also published books on board governance, strategic planning, and fundraising, as well as dozens of articles for professional journals and periodicals. Mark walks the talk as he has served in staff leadership roles with the Oregon Natural Resource Council, River Network, and the Yakima Greenway Foundation, and the Land Trust Alliance, and many others. He's a native Oregonian and a University of Oregon graduate. Maybe we can have him sing the fight song. His love of family is matched only by his love of eclectic music. I want to hear more about that. We're pleased to have Mark with us tonight, who will speak about his experience with helping land conservation organizations become more effective and better serve their communities. So now I'll turn it over to Mark.
Hi, folks. Nice to be here. Thanks for letting me join you. I'm going to put a nice visual up here. For us all to share. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of your annual meeting today. I woke up this morning in Portland, Oregon, and now I find myself in the Great Commonwealth, which isn't a travel trek that I do every day, especially in these days. I'm also very pleased to be able to talk to you a little bit about the topic that we have, which is really asking the question of, what is our organization becoming and what are the opportunities for the Barnstable Land Trust? So my big focus for our conversation really is about this concept of what I call becoming a community institution, which to me means that we as an organization are doing what the community needs us to do to really meet that expectation and serve the fundamental requirements of being connected and serving what the community needs. Land conservation in many cases has gotten a bad rap for being relatively isolated, and it's important for us to find ways to connect and engage in the community. The Land Trust Alliance and land trusts across the country have embraced this notion of community conservation, but it's sort of a vague notion. And what I'd like to do is spend a little time talking about what that might look like and how we might embrace this notion of community conservation and how it might help with the work that the Barnstable Land Trust is doing. I think it's important to recognize that this is a very special moment in the organization's life. We have, in everybody's life, this is a really significant time. We have a pandemic crisis. We're in the midst of the beginning of potentially an economic crisis. We have social justice unrest and reconciliation going on. I mean, I think this is really a critical moment when we're trying to do things that matter for every part of our community and still keep our conservation message and work relevant. I think it's important when you think about crisis, we all know this phrase, I suppose, but that crisis has two brush strokes. One of them is danger and one of them is opportunity. And as John F. Kennedy said, in crisis, be aware of danger, but recognize that opportunity. And I believe this is an opportunity for us as conservation groups to step into some parts of our community that we may have neglected and maybe haven't shown the same kind of support and engagement that might have been appropriate. So what I'd like to do is give you some examples by taking you on a little tour of what some land trusts have been doing out there and how they've looked at this notion of how to be relevant and support the needs of the community. So let me give you a couple of quick examples and then maybe we can go into a little more detail. I'm going to give you 7 of them. We're going to talk a little more detail, but let me first start with the Land Trust for North Carolina, a statewide organization that has said equity is a primary focus for us. And our conservation work can't be done unless we do it with an equitable lens at the very beginning. And so they've been leading the country in developing an equity and conservation program. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. In Texas, there's a group, Houston, Texas, group called the Katy Prairie Conservancy that has been protecting land primarily to support stormwater surge. Now, this is an issue that they've, for several decades, thought was a critical priority in the Houston area. There isn't a lot of land zoning or protection that takes place in support of that. So their organization did some great work. And after the last hurricane, they were rewarded for that in the ways in which the public agencies now are supporting the focus and the work that they're doing. In California, the Feather River Conservancy was asking their community about how they could be most relevant, what it is that would be most helpful for them. And when they asked this community that question, the feedback they got was our schools need outdoor classrooms. So the Feather River Conservancy protected land within a 5-minute walk of every school in their entire school district. So every student had access to green spaces and every teacher had an outside classroom that was available to them. So is that an education program or is that a conservation program? I think my answer is yes, it is. In Tennessee, the Tennessee River Gorge Trust has looked at how they can be doing their conservation work to support climate change. And so I'll show you some examples of what they're doing now that's not only protecting their land, it's also supporting their organization while supporting an innovative way to try to support climate change. Also in Tennessee, a statewide organization, the Land Trust for Tennessee, has this great partnership with one of these great old hotels of the area, where they grow the food and support the food needs of that hotel. And then the hotel helps promote and support the land trust's work. In this symbiotic relationship, they get to promote their good work, and this great hotel gets great local food. These are all examples of where partnerships have started, where the land trust has reached out to the community and the people that support them and said, how can we be doing more? In your state, the Mount Grace Conservation Trust did an interesting partnership. When they were not able to do their event, they partnered with several other land trusts and dedicated the proceeds from a virtual event to their local food bank. Now, the food bank isn't within the mission of the land trust, but everybody in their community saw the value and the urgency of supporting that great community institution. And so at that point, the trust said, we can do something about this. My statement is, in the middle of a crisis, there's no such thing as mission creep, and anything we can do to help our community is really critical. And I think Mount Grace has done a really admirable job of demonstrating that. Finally, a group that I want to introduce you to in this conversation a little more is the Low Country Land Trust in Charleston, South Carolina, that when asked to help protect a very special tree, they did a very special thing in bringing people together for that. So I want to go into a little more detail on these three examples, and I'm really glad that we've got a couple of hours together to do this. Wait, I've only got a few more minutes to really cover this, but let me see what we can do to go through a couple of these examples in a little more detail. Let me start with the group in North Carolina, the Conservation Trust with North Carolina. This is a great statewide organization. They've been doing great conservation for a long time, but they reconciled this issue of equity in their most recent strategic plan and recognized that they had to really reconcile their history as a state and as a conservation organization in terms of who conservation lands were benefiting and who was not benefiting. And so they've made a very, very deep investment in equity as the primary driving force behind their conservation work. They've created an internship program specially designed for young people of color to get opportunities to grow and develop professional skills. They have altered their protection criteria to reflect this broader notion of community conservation. And they've entered into this, what's called the Princeville Collaborative, which is a partnership with several other community organizations. And what their focus is on conserving whole communities, not just conserving land. And this notion of when we protect places, we have an obligation to see how those places matter to the cultures and the communities that we're serving. They have embraced that in a spectacular way. They are humble in their work, and they will tell you that they have a long journey ahead. But I can also tell you that in the land trust community, the Conservation Trust for North Carolina is way ahead of most land trusts on their equity journey. I really applaud them for their work. And there's much more that you can find out about what they're doing on their website, Conservation Trust for North Carolina. Let me give you another example of what community conservation looks like. Tennessee River Gorge Trust is actively working to protect one of the most beautiful areas in the central part of their state, but they also recognize that their obligations go beyond just the local. The idea of think globally and act locally has been a driving force behind conservation. The Gorge Trust has found a way to both act locally and act globally in their work. So what they've done is that they've entered several of their properties into the California carbon market, which opens the door to them supporting this innovative new carbon market on the West Coast that's really being used nationwide. It's not only supporting this fledgling program, but it is also generating revenue, unrestricted revenue for the land trust to support their stewardship agenda. And it gives them a very significant and real contribution to a global crisis that their community is absolutely committed to address. So it's a local project, it's an international project, and it really builds those bridges together. So to me, this is a perfect example of recognizing that when we protect and steward land, we can do that in a way that has extended benefits, benefits way beyond just our local community. In this case, the carbon benefits that are helping everybody on the planet. A great example, and they're really paving the way for other land trusts to be able to explore these kinds of innovative revenue techniques as well. Let me give you one more, and this may be one of my favorite examples of a community conservation project I've ever seen. It's in Charleston, South Carolina. They were asked a long time ago to help protect this tree, the angel oak. And the consequences of that simple step are profound. This land trust, asked by members of the Gullah Geechee community on St. John's Island to protect this iconic tree, stepped into that challenge. They needed to protect something like 36 acres for which this tree was a centerpiece. For many of us, this is not a huge conservation challenge. When they went out to protect this piece of property, what the land trust did was said, we're not going to lead the way, we're going to support the work of the local community to make this happen. So the land trust, instead of leading from the front, found a way to lead from behind. And they found a way to support the leaders of this community in their effort to protect their tree, and the land trust was a partner along the way. So here's an interesting little statistic for those of you who are interested in metrics. I'll give you a metric. I'm a fundraiser. I actually love fundraising. I love the idea that when I give people a chance to invest in the work of the Barnstable Land Trust, they can make a difference in their contribution. So when they in South Carolina were looking to raise money for the Angel Oak project, they had to raise several $million to make this project work. And to raise several $million, you typically need several hundred contributions to make it happen. They've had over 15,000 contributions to this project. 15,000 from across the world. Let me give you just a sense of what happens when a land trust makes a community conservation project as visible as it truly can be. Okay. Can you hear that? No hearing?
No sound.
Let me just do one quick thing. I apologize.
This is the angel oak, or simply the tree to locals. Some say the oldest living thing east of the Mississippi. In the last 500 years, it's weathered more than we'll ever know. Floods, lightning, hurricanes. Battered, but never broken. It stands for the resilience within us all. Carolinas, we're humbled by your strength, and we're here to help.
I don't know if you were able to catch most of that. I apologize if some of that audio didn't come through. But I think what's significant about that is that they've been able to bring together a community to protect someplace that was really important. And they were able to raise the profile of that project such that they were able to put an advertising out there, Allstate did, that really reinforced how significant this was to the local community. So I guess this is the challenge that I'd like to ask of all of you, is to consider now, what would it mean for us to think about bringing community into our conservation work? What would it mean to become the land trust that our community needs? Where can conservation make a difference in ways that matter beyond saving beloved places? You know, it's interesting. I heard Janet mention the idea of protecting land to protect drinking water. Drinking water is the single most compelling conservation issue in America. And that's because people don't see drinking water as a conservation issue. They see it as a health issue. So how can our conservation work be making a difference in health, in child development, in economic development, in all the ways that we think we should? And finally, if we're going to make this happen, how do we develop the relationships and the partnerships that we need to reach further into the community to really be the kind of partner and the kind of effective community-based organization, community institution that our community demands of us right now? So these are questions that I think the Barnstable Land Trust is asking these questions as they go forward with their strategic plan. I hope more and more land trusts are asking these questions, because this is the way that we become relevant to our communities. So I'm going to stop now and see if I can answer some questions, or if there's any other feedback people might have. I'm going to need people to feed me questions, if that's okay.
Well, Mark, this Mark is, as you can get a sense of here and a flavor, he is, and thank you, Mark, so much for speaking with our group. He has really lit a fire, you might say, with our board, and really helped us, you know, to become more aspirational in terms of how we relate and best serve our community. And this community impact statement, which we spent quite a bit of time at this last board retreat, talking with Mark, is something that we really want to put that together. It'll help tell our story, but also be a vehicle for us to get input from residents of the town in terms of and help us determine what the community needs are. What does the community need Barnstable Land Trust to become? And this is, it's why, you know, one of the many reasons why we really enjoy listening to Mark and having conversations with him. He's been a big help to our group going back to, you know, 3 or 4 years ago. And, you know, we're very, he's an inspiring guy. He's seen it all. You can see there are some tremendously effective and organizations, land trusts throughout this country, and Mark's got a pretty good handle on the sort of things that they're doing to make a difference, you know, above and beyond just protecting land in their community. So, Mark, again, I don't know if we have any questions for you yet, but you've been a big help for our organization. We really enjoy working with you, and your interest and support over here on the East Coast has been very exciting for our board, and you really helped the board honestly come together as a board, and it's makes it a lot easier to attract, have board members stay involved, and also to attract new potential board members. So thank you again for everything.
My pleasure.
And I just want to make sure you get your appropriate round of applause here. Let's see if we can get this cranked up one more time. There we go. Give me the big send off, Mark. Oh my gosh, they're going crazy. Thank you again. All right. So we would, as an aside, we very much encourage the folks out there listening in to send us your thoughts about what Mark was speaking on, and any other comments regarding this presentation today. I do want to acknowledge and thank the BLT members who have virtually attended this meeting. It's kind of a brave new world here, in a technological way. But it's very important for me to say strongly, as always, your support is critical to our mission. We appreciate all that you do for this organization. We urge you to tell your friends, family, and neighbors about BLT. It is critical, as you can see, that we keep growing our member base so that we can sustain our efforts to preserve what we all love about Cape Cod, as well as expand our reach even further into the community that we enjoy being a part of. In addition, I encourage anyone interested in joining a volunteer team or serving on a committee or even learning more about joining our board to please reach out to Janet or myself at any time. And again, acknowledge and congratulate our award winners. And thanks again to Mark for his great talk and for his ongoing guidance and support. I'd also like to thank our professional staff, including Janet Milkman, Jane Harvey, Lily Peterson-Wartinen, Kelly Barber, and Jackie Barton for all their hard work in carrying out our mission. And lastly, sincere thanks to our volunteer group and to all of the BLT board members for your involvement, service, and support of this great organization. I mean that sincerely. So I want to say good night to everyone, and just please stay well, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.